Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we cut through the noise and distill complex topics into essential knowledge, giving you those aha moments without all the information overload.
Yeah, glad to be here.
Today, we're taking a deep dive into something really vital. It's for a group of professionals who are truly on the front lines of care.
That's right. We're looking at excerpts from RBT Ethics Code Chapter 3. And when you really dig into it, it acts like a powerful virtual Bill of Rights for RBTs, registered behavior technicians.
A virtual Bill of Rights. I like that.
Yeah. Our mission today is basically to unpack these fundamental rights, understand why they're so crucial, and, explore what they mean in practice for RBTs and their supervisors.
Okay, let's unpack this then. We're going to start by trying to understand the world RBTs often navigate, which can be, well, challenging.
Definitely.
Then we'll systematically reveal the specific rights designed to protect them, and crucially, some practical ways for them to actually assert those rights.
Yeah, make it actionable.
Exactly. The goal is for you listening to leave this deep dive with a really crystal clear understanding of the ethical framework that should govern their vital work.
That's good.
So to set the stage, let's really try and grasp the environment RBTs often operate in. Our sources highlight RBTs are truly on the front line of treatment.
Absolutely. Especially when working with kids diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder, ASD.
And this isn't just like managing simple behaviors, right? It involves tackling really deep-seated language deficits sometimes.
And helping with dysfunctional social skills.
Yeah.
Addressing pre-severe behavior disorders. It's incredibly demanding work, no question.
What's often overlooked, though, and what I found fascinating here is how RBTs are frequently dealing with these external factors, too, things beyond the client.
That's a huge point. We've seen instances, that source points this out, where RBTs are treated poorly by parents who might disagree with the behavior plan, or even sometimes by their own employing company. Imagine working in conditions described literally as unclean, unhealthy, and dangerous.
Wow. That paints a really concerning picture of what some RBTs might face.
It really does.
And then there's the supervision aspect. You mentioned supervisors earlier. Our source note supervision can range from minimal at best to negligent at worst. That's pretty stark.
It is stark. It reveals a landscape where you have these incredibly dedicated people working under immense pressure, often in less than ideal conditions.
Yeah.
And sometimes with just not enough support, even though they're the face of the field every single day.
So it immediately raises this big question. How do we genuinely protect these professionals, the ones doing such critical work?
Right. And the answer, like we mentioned, is what the source called is implicit charter. It's kind of hidden in plain sight, derived from the BACB Code of Ethics since 2016.
Okay, so not like a separate document, but embedded in the main ethics code.
Exactly. It's not an official standalone Bill of Rights, but it's powerful because it's drawn directly from the official ethical guidelines that all BCBAs, including supervisors, have to follow. And it outlines more than a dozen sections detailing RBT rights. It gives a pretty robust framework for their protection.
Okay, so let's dive into these foundational principles then. The very first right, coming from Code 1.04, is integrity.
Yep.
Integrity. This isn't just general honesty, right? It specifically means your supervisor is obliged to tell you the truth and deal with you honestly in, like, all professional stuff.
Exactly. Think of it this way. Their honesty isn't just nice to have, it's your absolute right. You need genuine feedback to grow professionally, even when it's maybe tough to hear.
Right, like constructive criticism.
Precisely. So for instance, if a client or their family isn't happy with your work, your supervisor shouldn't sugarcoat the information or just, forget to tell you.
They need to give it to you straight.
Give it to you straight.
Yeah.
Directly, transparently.
Yeah.
That kind of clear, unvarnished feedback is, well, it's crucial for you to actually grow and maybe correct your course if needed.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, here's one that seems really interesting, maybe even uncomfortable for some. Code 1.07, no exploitation.
Yeah, that's a big one.
It states behavior analysts do not exploit persons over whom they have supervisory authority. Exploitation can feel like a strong word. What does it actually look like day to day for an RBT? How would they even know it's happening?
That's a really good question because it's not always obvious, right? Your time, your skills, your effort, they're valuable. They're not just free resources for your supervisor to use however they want. This code protects your professional worth.
Okay.
So a really clear example is a supervisor asking you, the RBT, to write complex behavior programs and then just slapping their name on it. passing it off as their own work.
Wow. Yeah, that's definitely exploitation.
It's a direct violation. But it goes beyond that. There are more subtle things, too.
Like what?
Like asking you to do tasks off the clock. Maybe cleaning up the playroom after your paid hours are done. Or promising you lots more hours to keep you available, but then only scheduling a few, kind of stringing you along.
Right. Or unpaid training.
Exactly. Requiring unpaid training attendance, or even asking you to write a positive online review for the agency to boost their image.
Those are all examples of what? Misusing the power difference.
That's exactly it. Misusing the inherent power differential. The RBT is in a position where it feels really hard to say no.
Okay. So moving beyond that direct supervisor RBT dynamic, the sources also talk about the right to effective treatment conditions. Codes 4.06 and 4.07.
Right. Limiting conditions for effective treatment.
This puts the responsibility on the BCBA, the supervisor, to specify and ensure that the conditions are actually appropriate for a behavior program to even work.
It absolutely does. And this is super practical for the RBT. If those conditions aren't right, maybe the home environment is just too chaotic, or the caregivers aren't consistently following through.
Yeah.
The BCBA is required by the code to make changes. Or, if necessary, even discontinue services.
Okay, so that's vital for the RBT who's actually in that environment.
Totally. If you, as the RBT on the ground, find the home isn't conducive, maybe parents aren't participating in the way they need to, you have a right, and maybe even a responsibility, to report this to your BCBA. In writing is usually best.
And the BCBA has to address it.
They have a clear ethical obligation to address it, ensure conditions are met, or adjust the services.
And this isn't just about whether the program works, is it? It feels like it's also about safety and dignity.
Profoundly, yes. The source specifically mentions cases where caregivers might berate or harass the RBT. Things like name-calling, cursing, or even threatening the RBT because maybe they misunderstand the treatment goals or something.
That's awful.
It is. And the crucial takeaway here is so powerful, the source says. RBTs do not have to tolerate such abuse.
That's a fundamental right then. You shouldn't have to put up with a hostile or abusive work environment.
Period. End of story.
Okay. Now let's shift to what you called maybe the heart of professional development for RBTs. Supervision itself.
Yeah, the core.
The BACB requires that minimum 5% supervision for hours spent providing services. That's supposed to ensure quality. But we hear that the quality can be, well, questionable sometimes.
Unfortunately, yes. That's often the feedback. Code 5.0 is really clear, though. It says supervisors must take full responsibility for all facets of supervision.
All facets. That sounds like a lot.
It's a massive responsibility. It defines quality supervision. It means accepting clients who are actually treatable by the team.
Okay.
Ensuring the environment is appropriate, preparing caregivers for their role, developing usable data collection methods, feasible behavior plans.
Wow, okay.
Overseeing the whole treatment process, from assessment right through to discharge. And crucially, protecting both the client and the RBT from harm.
So if any part of that is shaky,
it's squarely the supervisor's responsibility to step up and fix it. Take charge.
Given how absolutely critical good supervision is for an RBT's growth, let's break down exactly what you, as an RBT, should expect. We're going through specific rights within supervision now.
Yep. Starting with the foundation, their competence. 5.01, supervisory competence.
Okay. You're entitled to a competent supervisor. What does competent mean here?
It means they should provide services within their defined competence based on their education, training, experience.
So, like, if you get assigned a case involving something really specific, say pica.
Right, eating non-food items, or maybe Prader-Willi syndrome, you have the right to assume your supervisor has specific training and experience in those areas.
And you can ask.
You can, and you should. Ask for demonstration. Observe how fluent they are with the procedures. Judge their ability to answer your questions clearly. You should feel comfortable taking on that case after seeing your supervisor model it effectively.
That makes so much sense. If you're feeling hesitant, maybe that's a sign they aren't quite up to speed on that specific thing.
It could be, or at least not proficient enough to teach it confidently. And it applies to tricky protocols, too. If parents are pushing back on something,
yeah,
and you ask your supervisor for help, and they just say, oh, just handle it, that's not good enough.
Right.
You have the right to ask for more. You can say, hey, could we maybe role play that conversation? I'm not quite sure how to approach this. And these parents are pretty firm.
So you can gauge their competence by how well they can actually teach you the specifics.
Exactly. Even through a role play.
Yeah.
It ensures you know how to do it, not just what to do.
Okay, what's next? 5.02 Supervisory volume. You're entitled to a supervisor who isn't overworked.
Pretty much, yeah. It sounds obvious, but it's a huge issue. An excessive caseload for a BCBA often leads to less supervision, lower quality supervision, ethical shortcuts maybe, and it can even prevent RBTs from getting the hours they need for their certification.
So what can an RBT do?
Well, the source suggests being proactive. When you're interviewing for a job, ask the potential supervisor about their caseload. Ask about their supervision model.
Interesting. Like, check if it feels realistic.
Exactly. An overworked supervisor is a potential red flag. It impacts everyone.
And that ties into 5.03 Supervisory Delegation.
It does. You're entitled to a supervisor who only assigns tasks that are actually feasible for an entry-level RBT, given their training and experience.
So you don't have to just take on anything they give you.
Right. It's actually your responsibility as an RBT not to accept duties that are over your heads or unreasonable.
Okay.
And you can reference your own ethics code here. RBT Ethics Code 3.03. You could say something like, look, I'm not comfortable developing a functional assessment all on my own. That's a complex process.
Right. That's usually a BCBA level task.
Exactly. And I don't want to violate my RBT Ethics Code 3.03. Can you work with me on this? Can we do it together? That empowers you, ethically and professionally.
Okay, good strategy. Then there's 5.04, Designing Effective Supervision and Training, entitled to effective training. How do we measure effective?
The measure is your performance afterwards. Did the training actually help you do your job better?
Okay. Practical results.
Yes. You should acquire skills fairly quickly and be able to use them right away. The training itself should be developed by someone experienced, using proven behavioral techniques.
Like BST, behavioral skills training.
Yep, BST is a great example. Instruction, modeling, practice, feedback. Or maybe tag teaching, which focuses on really immediate, specific feedback.
And the content has to be
Behavior analytic. And it has to meet the BACB requirements for supervision hours. It's all about practical hands-on learning that helps you with your clients, not just theory.
Makes sense. And this leads to 5.05, Communication of Supervision Conditions, getting things in writing.
Yes. You have the right to a clear, written description of everything before supervision starts. The purpose, the requirements, how you'll be evaluated, the conditions, the terms.
Like a contract.
Often called a supervision contract. It's your protective shield, really. It should cover hours, client types, how you record hours, how you'll be evaluated, what behaviors they'll observe.
Wow, okay, pretty detailed.
It should be. Even under what conditions they will or won't sign off on your hours. And many consequences if the contract is breached. It just prevents misunderstandings later.
Clarity up front. Good. And the last supervision right, 5.06, providing feedback.
Right. You're entitled to feedback and reinforcement systems that actually improve your performance in real time, ideally.
Not just a yearly review.
No. This could be verbal feedback during sessions, written notes, maybe even graphs showing your progress, and reinforcement systems like checklists for skills mastered, maybe leading to rewards or advancement.
So the goal is clear improvement over time.
Absolutely. Your skills as a technician should demonstrably get better because of your supervisor's support and timely, objective feedback. It ensures supervision leads to real skill development, not just checking off a requirement.
Okay, that covers the core supervision rights. Now let's broaden out again to the whole workplace culture. Code 7.01 talks about the right to work in an ethical environment.
Yeah, this is about the bigger picture.
It says behavior analysts promote an ethical culture and make others aware of this code. What does promoting an ethical culture actually look like? What should organizations be doing?
Well, the source outlines 4 key steps, a kind of blueprint. First, BCBAs need to be role models.
Lead by example.
Exactly. Not just following rules, but how they interact with clients, colleagues, and especially their supervisees, the RBTs. Unethical stuff like ditching supervision appointments, making nasty comments about RBTs, asking people to backdate forms that just shouldn't happen. Their actions set the tone.
That makes perfect sense. What's second?
Second, there needs to be regular ethics discussion. It shouldn't be a taboo topic. Ethics should come up in supervision, in trainings, in meetings, maybe even in company newsletters.
And RBTs should feel safe bringing up concerns.
Crucially, yes. They need clear ways to express ethical concerns, one-on-one or in groups, without fearing any backlash. It has to be an ongoing, open conversation.
Okay. Third step.
Third, for larger organizations, it's recommended they establish an ethics officer and maybe an ethics committee.
Formal structure.
Right. This body could offer ongoing training, bring in speakers, and really importantly, handle confidential ethics complaints. It provides a safe, formal channel when direct talks aren't enough or appropriate.
And the fourth step.
Fourth, supervisors need to visibly reinforce ethical behavior and deal quickly with unethical conduct. This one's huge for morale.
Yeah, I can see that.
Nothing kills morale faster than seeing favoritism or watching rules get broken with no consequences. When ethical actions are noticed and praised and unethical actions are addressed swiftly and fairly, that powerfully reinforces the code. It builds trust.
Okay, so putting it all together, what does this all mean for you listening, whether you're an RBT, a supervisor, maybe an agency owner?
It means there's a clear, pretty robust framework for how things should work ethically in ABA. And remember, these aren't just nice ideas. They come directly from the code that BCBAs must follow. They're actionable.
Right. So the big message is RBTs are frontline pros. They deserve respect, fair treatment, quality supervision.
Absolutely. And these rights derive from the code. They're your tools. For RBTs, understanding these rights empowers you. You can advocate for yourself, ask for clarity, report problems, and reasonably expect a professional, ethical place to work.
And for supervisors and agencies?
For them, it's a clear guide. Uphold these standards, foster a supportive environment, and you'll get better care outcomes because you're protecting the people delivering that care. It's a win-win, strengthens the whole profession.
So this deep dive has really uncovered this powerful, even if it's unofficial, Bill of Rights for RBTs. It highlights how critical their role is and the strong ethical foundation that should be supporting them.
Exactly. Respecting these rights makes the whole profession better. Better outcomes for clients, a more sustainable, ethical work environment for everyone. It's about building a better future for ABA, really.
We definitely encourage all RBTs listening to really familiarize yourselves with these principles. Think about how you can incorporate them into conversations with your supervisors, with your colleagues.
Yeah, like the source concludes, our profession can only grow strong and vital if everyone respects the rights of those on the front line of treatment. It benefits everyone.
So maybe a final thought for you to take away.
Yeah, maybe think about what one right from our discussion today resonated most with you. Just one. And consider how you might apply it, or maybe just talk about it, in your own work situation this week.
Even one small step can make a difference.
Definitely.
That's all for this deep dive. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And we look forward to our next exploration with you.